Afghanistan's Taliban rulers have intensified their draconian anti women campaign by ordering an indefinite ban on university education for them. 16 months after the Taliban made a cakewalk entry into Kabul in the face of a disastrous US withdrawal from Afghanistan after nearly 20 years, Afghan women have to suffer the worst anti women impulses of the rulers. Rosa Otunbayeva, the new UN Special Representative in Afghanistan, as well as the chief of the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, has been quoted as saying, and I quote, the prevention of secondary education will mean that in 2 years there will be no girls entering university. This decision is extremely unpopular among Afghans and even within the Taliban leadership, unquote. Meanwhile, Anniken Huitfeldt, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, the point country on the UN Security Council's work on Afghanistan, too has expressed serious concerns about the plight of Afghan women.
For the past 2 years, Norway has been penholder on the Security Council's work on Afghanistan. This has been a challenging time for the country, as well as globally, and for the Security Council. As Foreign Minister of Norway, I'm encouraged by the ability of this Council, even in difficult times, to find solutions to a politically challenging situation. By adopting the resolution on the UN mission, we have provided it with a strong mandate. The main focus of Norway has been to bolstering international support for the Afghan people. As we stand here, Afghan people are facing yet another brutal winter. People are freezing, people are starving. More than 2/3 of the population desperately needs humanitarian assistance. The situation for women and girls is particularly difficult. On many levels, women have basically been erased from public life. This is not only a human rights crisis, it is also bad for economics to exclude half of the population. This Council has expressed concern over the increasing erosion of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms of women and girls by the Taliban. We must never stop telling the Taliban how equal participation in public life is non-negotiable. Allowing equal education for all girls and boys is a crucial area. This was our clear message to the Taliban during consultations in Oslo at the beginning of this year. We believed that it is necessary to talk to those in power and that it is possible to have this dialogue without giving legitimacy to the Taliban. Norway has also consistently provided platforms for women human rights activists, political leaders, and civil society representatives in Oslo and in the UN. Instability in Afghanistan is also a threat to international peace and security. In the year ahead, the Security Council must clearly communicate its expectations to the Taliban on human rights and stability, on dialogue between Afghans, and on counter-terrorism. The Afghan people need peace, and they need it now. Norway will continue to stand by their side. Thank you.
Alarms over the desperate plight of Afghan women and girls and their being deprived education by the Taliban were first raised by Mahbouba Seraj, one of Afghanistan's most prominent women and children's rights activists. At a recent meeting in Geneva, Ms. Siraj, in fact, first spoke of Afghan women being erased from public life by the Taliban. Mahbouba Seraj, who lives in Kabul and travels frequently to the United States, spoke to Mayank Chhaya reports from New York. Norway's foreign minister, Anniken Filfeld,
Yeah,
whose country is a sort of a bridge between Afghanistan and the UN Security Council,
right.
has said girls and women are being erased from public life by the Taliban.
That's right.
You live there. What's your experience, and how do you look at the whole scene?
Well, actually, this is a saying that I started it, a few months ago when I was in Geneva, and I had for the Human Rights Conference, and that's exactly what I said. I said the
I
women of
see.
Afghanistan have been erased, and it is the truth. We have been, Mr. Chaya. And right now, especially, I was seeing that kind of slowly happening. But right now, with the last decision that the Taliban made, which is the closing of all of the universities and every place that education was taking place and girls were being educated, is closed. They shut them down and they told the girls not to go. So if this is not erasement, I wonder what it is.
Right.
And they really are, and it's a systematic thing, an action that has been taken place, and they are, I'm sure they put a lot of thoughts in it. And the thing is that the women in Afghanistan are being used as a what do you call it, as um, a a means for political gains.
Right.
So anytime they want to, the Taliban are unhappy about something the West tells them or about something that is going on, then what they do, they put pressure on the women of Afghanistan. So by doing that once and twice and three and four and five and six and seven and eight, nine, 10 times, they really did manage to erase us. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
Even if you factor in the inherent misogyny of the Taliban order, as well as some measure of religious fundamentalism, even if you build that into this argument,
Right.
I find it stunning that they do not see what it's doing to Afghan people generally. Why is it? Why are they so completely oblivious to that?
Well, I guess that's a choice. It's not something that it just happened. They are actually, they do that because for the Taliban, it's not strange. That's a fact. The rest of the people of Afghanistan don't exist. The only ones that are there and are important and they do everything for is their group, because to them, and they have a philosophy for it. And the saying is that for the 20 years or 22, 1 year or 20 years or whatever, the amount of, in other words, what they went through, it gives them the right. And right now they're supposed to be behaving the way they are. And the rest of the people of Afghanistan are responsible for whatever happened to them in the past 20 years. So they're taking it out on the people of Afghanistan and the rest of the people.
UN Special Representative in Afghanistan, Rosa Otunbayeva,
Yeah,
recently said this, and I'm quoting her: "We do not see eye to eye with the Taliban on a number of issues, but the
right,
focus is and should be on maintaining dialogue in the hope of a better future for Afghanistan, where everyone, women, girls, and boys, can live a life with dignity and equality."
right.
Given what the Taliban is, do you think that's a sensible approach? I mean, they are not known for their affinity for modernity, the Taliban, I mean.
No, I know, but at the same time, what really, so that's one of the mandates of the UNAMA, United Nations. So
Right,
they have
right,
somehow for the SRSG to to find a way of dealing with the Taliban. I know that's the mandate. But what worries me absolutely lately is that I have a feeling that the world, and the bigger part of the world, has decided what they're going to do with the Taliban is to accept them and go on and, with the life with them and all of that. The only ones that are not aware of that are the people of Afghanistan, as always. But the rest of the world knows what they want to do. So to me, that is becoming really worrisome because,
Right.
again, we are out of the whole picture. Nobody again does, no one shares with us what they're planning to do. And then at the end of the day, whatever falls, it's going to fall on top of the head of the people. So this is where the injustices of the world is. And I know that's the way humanity has always been. But for God's sakes, we are in 21st century and the world is apparently working to make it better. So how come it does not get any better in Afghanistan? Now that's the part I don't understand. Really.
Purely at a broader philosophical level, why is it that Afghans generally themselves
Yeah.
decide
Yeah.
that, listen, we don't care about what the world thinks of us. We have to change this order no matter what it takes. Because after all, I presume the Taliban, in terms of its base or constituency, wouldn't be more than what, 15, 20, 30% of the country?
No,
Let's
not
say,
even that. There are about we are 40 million people. There are about 400,000 max.
I was overstating it just to make a point.
Yeah,
400,000 Taliban. And
400,000. Yeah, and 40 million people. I mean, really? Just
so
imagine.
why I really have been, we talked about it the last time. I'm surprised that, and this is true of humanity generally, that there is no pushback. The few have always managed to hijack the aspirations of the many
Yeah,
historically.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
do you see that Afghans, being very proud, independent people, would at some point decide this enough is enough? We have to get rid of this malaise.
I you see that is very interesting. But there is so much more involved in all of this, in this particular philosophy. There is so much more involved. And what is involved, for example? Number one thing that is involved is 44 years of war in Afghanistan. I mean, that
Right.
by itself is 3, 4 generations that they've been in war continuously. That's number one. Number two is religion. Religion and the way, Afghans are Muslims, and they always have been. But, they are caught up in a way with understanding religion that the way the Taliban explains it to them or says whatever they say, they think that that's the truth and they have to accept it. And because the religion was taught in Afghanistan mostly by just the philosophy of belief, not by knowledge. In other words,
Right.
the Arabic language, they don't understand it. There is not reading it or translating it, and all of that. It's just in their hearts. And
Right.
that can be actually by a group of people who know how it can be used and abused the way it has been in Afghanistan. So that's another thing that is happening.
Right.
Number three is the way the world is dealing with Afghanistan, especially the United States. And the way they went about it, from day one until now, it's been extremely how shall I say disconcerting, for everybody. Because the thing is that they are the way they came about the peace talks, the way they had sent their representatives Al Khalilzad, the way
Right.
the meetings were going on in Doha, all of that. All of that has been kind of a fabricated or planned to really serve the purposes of one country in the world, and that's the United States, and forget about the rest of them. Well, we see the result right now.
Right.
And then, of course, the number four is the way they left Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Now, the Americans are thinking, this is my thinking, that the Americans are thinking that, well, we left Afghanistan in a way that it has not been, they realized that they left the biggest void of power in that part of the world. And especially with the way things are changing, because the powers of the world are changing. It's no longer in the hands of the United States, funny enough.
Right.
It's changing, it's shifting. There's a shift of power completely. It's going towards China, is going towards India, is going back towards Russia, is going to the Stans, is going away from that part of the world. So that they realized that by doing this, what they did, the way they did it with all of that hurry, 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 we have to get out of here, we have to get out of here, they left this void. And right now, the realization of leaving that void is not a very, it's not easy to swallow nor digest for them, really.
Right. Right.
So now I think they are doing different things to kind of I don't know, to correct that, to avoid that, to I don't know what they're.
Right.
But again, the ones that are paying for the mistakes and for the um, everything of the world again is the people of Afghanistan. And that is breaking me in pieces, and my heart and soul is just there are days I cannot take it, Mr. Chai.
Right.
I swear I cannot.
Yeah.
It's like too much. How long are we supposed to be doing this? And the people of Afghanistan are supposed to be paying for that. So now, whatever we used to know about the people of Afghanistan, their you know reactions to how it was before and all of that, it has changed. We are no longer the same people.
Right.
And if it continues, sorry,
No, that's okay.
what worries me if it continues worries me that we will change in a way that the world, or even us and the ones that we want to will never be able to find us, who we were, what we were, what we used to stand for, how we were, is not going to exist. It really not.
That's really tragic. And speaking of tragic, Otunbayeva also said that prevention of secondary education will mean that in 2 years there will be
Yeah,
no girls entering the university system.
no, exactly.
That means you're essentially destroying entire generations by
Exactly.
this one.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. And by destroying, a generation of a country, who do you destroy first? You destroy the women,
Right.
because they are the ones that they hold, societies together.
Right.
And if you destroy them, that's the job is done.
Are
So
there elements within the Taliban who do not necessarily agree with these draconian measures, like the banning of university education? And is that number enough to gradually sway it back to at least some measure of moderation?
I really don't believe that, because the damage will be done completely.
Okay.
If this is the way, what worries me the most is the fast pace of this whole thing. Is the way the world is changing right now is changing very fast, as you know, we are not,
Right.
about 2-3 centuries ago. We are in the 21st century, and with all of the technology and everything, things are changing like very quick. So um so we don't it will not be enough time. I'm not saying that all the Taliban are believing in this. No, that is not true, because there are some that they don't believe in all of this. But I don't think, the way their system has been set up, and they're following that to the T, is that they're not going to, change it right now. And even if the ones that don't agree, it's not that they're going to come up and say, well, we should be doing something about it. They're going to be very quietly and patiently watching it and seeing what will unfold.
Right. And the economy being what it is now, it's in
Oh no.
absolute tatters. Isn't that a leverage for international community to lean on the Taliban and say, listen, if you need finance, we demand conditionally that you make these fundamental changes.
Yeah, but then again, what happens one more time from another way is the people of Afghanistan who are going to suffer.
Right.
It's like, for the international community also, it's becoming extremely hard to be making a decision like that, because who will be paying for that? It will be the Afghan people that
Yeah.
are going to be paying for it. So that's why, although some of us, we are asking that and say, forget about it, just let's stop everything and let's all of us starve to death. Maybe it will get to that anyways. I don't know. Or maybe they're going to something will happen in a there's going to be a bomb blast and kill everybody.
Is there any apprehension of a different kind of civil war breaking out between the Taliban element and the non-Taliban elements just for the control of the country and the country's culture?
It should be, no. I would say
Well,
now, especially the country's culture should be something that it should be, saved. If the name of the game was to save the country's culture, it would have
right,
been an entirely different ballgame. But if the name of the game is to gain power, then it's not going to get us anywhere. Because again, it's going to be the same thing. One group is fighting for power to the other group, and the people of Afghanistan don't want to do that anymore.
yeah,
They really don't want to get involved in that, and I don't blame them. Who wants to go on for another war, for God's sakes?
right. One point that jumped out at me while reading some of the UN perspective on what's going on,
Yeah.
they did make a comment that the level of corruption has gone down compared to the last administrations.
Well,
Now,
yeah, that is true, because the last administration, the last administration was not. They were not corrupt in a normal way. They were corrupt in a way that the world had never seen anything like that. Had never seen anything like that. In Afghanistan of the 20 years, that's how it was. I mean, I
right,
mean, I mean, the amount of money these people put in their pockets, it was like phenomenal. It was like nothing is enough for these people. They kept on taking and taking and taking and taking. So yeah, compared to that, absolutely. But I want to tell the world something else. Another trend is going to start.
right.
Oh
And
yeah.
the irony is that the US kept funding that corruption
Oh yeah.
happily.
Oh yeah. The whole 20 years. Not only funding that corruption, enabling that corruption.
Right.
So
It,
yeah.
the level of scandal in terms of the US engagement is staggering, and yet people have completely forgotten that. At
Yeah.
least in this country, it's a total non-issue.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is.
Yeah.
But I keep on saying this to the people of this country, the United States, the country that I love so much, and it's been my second home, and I really, and the people of this country are absolutely amazing. I'm not talking about the government that are, uh, be very, very careful about what you're doing, because these things, they have a way of coming back and biting you so bad
Right,
that you will not really know what hit you. This
right.
is this is how this is how things are.
Yeah,
Because by doing it, we will bring about another, what shall I say, another system, another group of people, another mentality, something that has never even crossed the minds of anybody, that there is something like that as possible. It will come and take over, and then the
right.
whole world will be amazed. Yeah.
Just last couple of things. One is at a personal level.
Yeah.
Uh, what goes on through your mind? Because we've talked about it a bit during our earlier interactions. Where are you now in your mental space? Because you've been so active on human rights, women rights, etc.
Well, Mr. Chaya, in my mind, I'm getting more and more confused. I'm getting more and more um, in one side. On one side is I'm really very confused about the whole thing. I am At times I really lose hope, and at times I really lose my strength and my stamina, and that worries me. And then I turn right back and say, no, don't do that. Don't allow that to bring you down, because at this point is not the time for something like that, and you have to keep on going. Um, uh, but it's very uh, it's hurting my heart. It's hurting my soul. It's hurting my core being. It really is. And I'm feeling so helpless, because there's nothing I can do. How am I going to stop the cries of those girls in their eyes, and hold them in my arms and say, sweetheart, everything is going to be all right. Please be patient. I can't even say that to them anymore. I really
Right.
can't. And honestly, I cannot say that to them, and really believe in it myself. Um, but I have to find that power from somewhere, anywhere is possible. I have to. and try to make it work, because what else is going to be happening if it's not that? Then what? Complete,
Yeah.
uh, giving up hope. No, that's not the way to go on. And there
Yeah.
are very hard times for us. These times are extremely hard. And the thing is that I always, for some reason, I thought that things are going to get easier from the day the Taliban came. As the time went on, I thought maybe things will change for the
Right.
better. I honestly did not know that they were going to change for so much worse.
And finally, I'm curious about Afghans, young Afghans, say late teens and their early 20s and early 30s. It's a big generation. It is in many ways still a pretty young country.
I know
What
68% of our population are young.
there? So that's a huge, hefty demographic
It
to
is.
demand the kind of change. Say, for instance, what you're witnessing in Iran.
Right.
Uh, do you think something like that is possible in Afghanistan? Although nothing is changing in Iran either, despite
No,
the protest.
no. Although, yeah, nothing is changing in Iran either, and I don't know what will change in Iran. To tell you the honest truth, the more I'm searching my mind, I cannot find it. And also the resemblance between Iran and Afghanistan. I mean, it's not the same at all. There are
No,
reasons why all of this is done in Afghanistan is very different from why it is done in Iran. Besides, Iranians, they lived with a situation like this for 44 years already. They have been living, but of course with one huge difference, that
yeah,
nobody stopped the Iranian woman from getting education, or
right,
having a life and reaching somewhere and achieving something, and being, a really, um, uh, you know members of their society. Nothing like that, because the Iranians are extremely clever, and they know that anything like that is going to be so bad for their own country. For the Taliban, they really don't care what is so bad for Afghanistan. They really couldn't care less. So
right,
that's why they're doing what they're doing, because I really don't think they really consider Afghanistan as their country at all. I
right.
really don't think so. Some of the provinces they might believe is theirs, but I don't think
Not
Afghanistan consider
as
it.
a whole, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Just a complete digression. I've been thinking about it. The fact that Iran is Shia and
yeah,
the Taliban are extreme Sunni, almost Wahhabism sort of thing, and
right.
maybe even beyond. Do you think that plays a significant role in the way, say, for instance, Iranian women, like you pointed out, have
Yeah.
had some measure of freedom compared to the Sunni Talibani approach?
Yeah, that I'm sure it has played a role, no doubt, definitely it has played a role, because nobody stopped the Iranian woman from getting education or doing a job or going in work, and providing for their family. Nobody stopped them. The only thing that, of course, made them, that's not the only thing. I mean, even
Yeah,
the young generation is getting sick and tired of that. I can understand that. But the thing that they were told is that continuously they were told by their religious police, do this and don't do this, and cover your
right.
hair and cover your head. And I mean, for 44 years, when you hear that, and then especially when you're young, and then you get old, and then other generations grow and they get old, and then finally one generation stands and says, "You're killing me. I mean, this is enough is enough." So that's exactly what happened in Iran. But in Afghanistan, it's not like that. In Afghanistan, the women are not saying, we don't want to wear a job. They say, we will not only wear one hijab, I will wear 5 hijabs. For God's sake, just let me go and do my education. I swear to you,
Right,
that's
right.
exactly what they do. And I will walk on the streets of Kabul any which way you want me. I put, 5 things on top of my head and cover myself completely. But let me go and work in an office so I could get money and support my family. You see, this is all of the things
Exactly.
that are happening. Very different, very different.
It is. It is.